This is VSiN, the sports betting network. This is the VSiN Morning Line on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Good morning, happy Friday, and welcome into the VSiN Morning Live. We made it through the work week, folks. Thank you for starting the final day of work week here with us. I'm Grace Armington with Michael Lombardi and Harrison Sanford. Wild game last night in several different ways. Bills end up covering the +2.5 against the Dolphins in a battle for the lead in the AFC East. So congrats to all who cashed those Bills tickets. The total, man, if you were holding an under ticket, I wouldn't blame you if you were shaking on the edge of your seat. It looked cooked. That game had 34 total points through the first half, but ended up not going over the 48 for the game. So maybe a bad beat there if you had the over ticket, but Bills +2.5 in the under cash. Of course, the biggest storyline of the game here, though, is Tua Tagovailoa leaving the game in the third quarter with a concussion. It's his fourth known concussion. So, Michael, what were your reactions to seeing that?
Well, I mean, you know, the game was going on, it was Miami playing the way they played against Jacksonville. They were fortunate to beat Jacksonville. They didn't play well. They looked sloppy. They didn't look well coached on either side of the ball against Jacksonville. That continued into week 2 on a short week. Tua made a lot of mistakes with the football, the interceptions, and then, of course, unfortunately, you feel so badly for the young man because when he takes off and runs, Harrison, he goes and he really initiated the contact with Hamlin. Hamlin took a blow to his chest, and Tua unfortunately got a concussion. So that was really tough. I mean, Miami, the Tua element is something we have to talk about from a human element, but from a football element, Miami does not look good. This is 2 weeks in a row. They easily could have been 0-2, Harrison.
Yeah, I think I was like most football fans last night, bemoaning how poor the offense was majority of the time for the Miami Dolphins. And then it really touched your human side when you saw Tua go down like that. It was really unfortunate to see there. And I forgot what else happened in the game. I forgot, anything that happened in that first half. And my thought was Tua and how he went down like that, especially when you consider the history of him having concussions. And so for me, obviously the impact on Tua and potentially not being there for a while is something that we'll get to. But my immediate thought was, man, this football player's career is definitely at this point in doubt. And it's unfortunate considering all the concussion history that he's already gone through.
Yeah, really scary situation. You could see him going into that fencing or posturing position onto the field. And immediately you saw Mike McDaniel's face. It kind of looked like he was thinking about the future. He was projecting out into the future about what this meant for Tua. He felt a lot of worry for his quarterback. You even saw him grab him, kind of kiss the top of his head as he left the field and went into the locker room. But after the game, here's Mike McDaniel with an update on Tua's condition.
For me, I'm not worried about anything that's out of my hands in terms of I'm just worried about the human being, and he'll drive the ship when we get the appropriate information. But it's day by day health is what I've really try to approach all the stuff that way, particularly with concussion.
Yeah, the human element there with Mike McDaniels is so important. But here at VSiN as a betting network, you spin this forward, and the NFL has protocols. So they have rules and regulations when it comes to concussion. And when you've had as many as Tua had going back 2 years, last year he played concussion-free. 2 years ago, that wasn't the case. I cannot see if we have any rules, if we have any protocols, that he would be able to play next week in Seattle when they go there. And I think that's one of the reasons you won't see that game up on the board. Tua just got a huge contract, fully guaranteed for skill. And here's the key word, Harrison, injury, because this concussion qualifies. Now, we don't know the language in the contract. If they put a waiver in on concussions to protect the team, doubtful that they did. But what he needs to do is get healthy, because the worst thing that could happen to Tua is what happened to him 2 years ago. Try to come back and then get another concussion. He gets one more concussion within a 4-week frame, and all of a sudden, his career is going to be in jeopardy.
Yeah, I feel bad for him because he took some steps in order to protect himself going into that 2023 season. He was learning how to slide better. At least that's what he told the media. He was also, I think he was taking Taekwondo or some type of mixed martial arts. He put on extra weight to be able to take some of these blows, and you still have an instance like last night. I think it's just a cool reminder that you could have the strongest athletes in the world. You could have the most agile athletes in the world. You're still susceptible to having violent collisions. And that's exactly what happened last night, Michael. And I'm worried now, not just if he has another concussion within the next 4-week span, but what happens if he just has another concussion in general? Now, outside of the physical health, there's also the mental health aspect, I would imagine, Michael, for any player who's going through that many number of concussions, and specifically playing a position like the quarterback, where, let's keep it real, you're going to get hit.
Yeah. And look, let's be clear. The Miami Dolphins and Chris Greer, their general manager, has done a really the only word to describe it is a poor job in building this offensive line. They are truly a Madden team. They've got incredible skill. We saw Achane be explosive, but when you're counting on Armstead to be your left tackle, he was in and out of the game, never stays healthy. The guards are hurt. They've lost linemen. They've done nothing to beef up this offensive line at all. It's not a good line. They've gotten away with it because he gets rid of the football so quickly. But there's been no priority put on offensive linemen in Miami. It's all been about skill. It's all been about that. And if we have any rules in the league, if the league believes that concussions are something that we should take seriously. Now, we know Denzel Ward, he's had 5 of them, and he's going to continue to play. I think that's risky. But for Tua and the quarterback, Harrison, as you said, you can't risk this. They've got to be very careful. They have to be overcautious. That's why the backup quarterback position, Harrison, is so important on Miami.
We have seen some players out here, Michael, wearing the Guardian cap. What have you been hearing about the Guardian cap in terms of players maybe being more willing to use it? And I wonder what the initial reviews have been in terms of helping protect head injuries, potentially like we saw last night.
Yeah, I would think every quarterback in the league would wear the Guardian cap. I mean, it makes sense for them to wear it, right? Look, here's the real issue. I mean, Tua went head first in to get that first down. He was trying to offset a bad game and make a play. I mean, he's got to be more careful. I think he's got to be more self-aware. Look, it's tragic that he got another concussion. I get that. I understand that. But you got to protect yourself in this game. And when you're playing at that speed and the game's going like that, slide. Don't go head first. I know you want to get the first down. I know it's important. I know that's an instinct that comes into that. But I think you got to learn to slide, and you got to protect yourself, especially when you've been prone to this. Look, we saw him this summer, and I know he thought like he had a great off season, but I thought he looked too small, Grace. I thought he looked like he lost too much weight to handle the bulk. I don't know if that really matters, the way he tried to went in on the tackle. But look, I think there's definitely, if he plays in Seattle, then we really don't have a concussion protocol. We just have a joke.
Yeah, I would definitely refer to it that way. It's interesting. You can put all this effort into the jiu-jitsu training that he did and put on the weight. But at the end of the day, it comes down to decision making. And we know, like you said, he was trying to offset a poor game. The 3 interceptions, were really all bad. But it kind of spinning it forward, those interceptions kind of revealed a lack of wide receiver depth. You mentioned the O-line injuries as well, but the Bills defense was forcing the ball away from Waddle and Tyreek. All 3 of those interceptions came on throws to other receivers. 2 of them weren't even on the team in mid-August. That first one hit Grant DuBose in the hands, pops up in the air. Maybe that one was a little bit early thrown by Tua. The second one was a miscommunication with Robbie Chosen, and then the third one obviously was supposed to be a throwaway, but didn't quite get there. So looking ahead, considering how this team was built, how difficult will it be for the backup quarterback, whether it's Skylar Thompson or someone else they bring in?
It's going to be really hard, Grace. It's going to be really hard. Miami, again, now it's going to expose the offensive line. What Mike McDaniel has been able to do offensively, not defensively, what he's been able to do is hide the offensive line and hide Tua's inability to really be a pocket passer. Everything comes out in rhythm. Everything's an RPO game. And I think the league has caught up to it. This is 2 weeks in a row. This offense has not looked good. Now, look, Tyreek Hill takes 180 yards, and there's only one human on planet Earth that could have outrun that angle on the over route against Jacksonville. Seriously, just one human. It's Tyreek Hill. So I think, to me, this offense, because they have no power, because they have no toughness. Look, they're 4-10 under Mike McDaniel the second half of the season. So if they don't start fast, they're not going to end fast. This isn't a team that builds up. And it's kind of ironic. You know, Jalen Ramsey complained about Vic Fangio. All the players complained about it being too hard. Everybody said it was too hard. Now they've got what they want. They have this kind of, I don't want to call it a player-friendly atmosphere in Miami on both sides of the ball, but they look like a team that doesn't have any details covered, or really a team that's ready to play and function at a high level. You can't hide it. I mean, Jacksonville gave them the game last week. They should be 0-2. They're fortunate to be 1-1, and now they've got to deal with a backup quarterback going in, which is not going to go very well for them because people are no longer going to be scared of the timing routes. And I think they're going to be able to do exactly what Sean McDermott did, take away the two receivers, force the ball somewhere else. I think it's a hard game. And then we didn't even get into Anthony Weaver's inability to – I mean, if I would have told you, Grace, yesterday morning that Josh Allen's going to throw for 139 attempts and really not even participate in the game, you would have said, well, Miami wins easy, right?
For sure. Yeah, Josh Allen now 7-0 on Thursday Night Football. And can you guys believe he was an underdog? Free money. So once again, congrats to all of those who had those Bills tickets. We hit a lot on the Dolphins there. We'll get to more Bills details as we go on in this show. But just a little tease on what's coming up in this show. We have Thomas Gable with some bookmaker insights into the weekend. Ian Hartitz joining us at 8:30 Eastern with a fantasy preview, and Tim Murray at 9 Eastern with his best bets for college football. More NFL breakdowns on the other side. You're watching the VSiN Morning Line.
Time. There's nothing more valuable. It's what drives everyone to make the most of every moment. We celebrate living large in the now. In a city where time disappears, we create experiences that electrify the soul and memories that will last forever. We go big, we go all night, and here, everyone is invited. So get loose and get loud.
This is Circa. You'll have the time of your life.
Coming up Friday on Follow the Money, we recap Thursday Night Football. Also preview Week 2 of the NFL, picks and props with Adam Chernoff, pennant races in MLB, and a good college card. Follow the Money weekdays, 4 to 7 Eastern on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Want to see who at VSiN is on a hot streak? Go to VSiN.com/picks to see all the selections and weekly leaderboard of VSiN hosts, writers, and guests. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber and get every pick sent to your inbox daily. Just head to VSiN.com/pro.
So, Paulie, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Bill's in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's late night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter.
You're watching the VSiN Morning Line right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back into the VSiN Morning Line as we get you ready for week 2 of the NFL season. Let's go to Kansas City now, where the Chiefs are a 5.5-point home favorite now, hosting the Bengals. This number actually getting shorter as it held at 6.5 for a majority of the week. The total set at 48. But before we break that down, Harrison, you have an interesting trend for us that might help some bettors here.
Yeah, curious to see why the
jet sweeps and just run straight. We can't do too much else, so that's about it. Feel like you put your.
Okay, we'll get to that later.
A little tease of a soundbite on the way, but I am curious though. While that total is going towards the Bengals, especially when there's that uncertainty as it pertains to T. Higgins, but there is some certainty as it pertains to Andy Reid's coaching record coming off a bye. Historically, teams coached by him 22-13 coming off of a bye. Now, obviously, this is not a bye. This is more like a rest advantage for the Kansas City Chiefs because they opened up on Thursday Night Football. Meanwhile, the Bengals obviously played on Sunday, so a 3-day rest advantage. And when you look at Andy Reid historically, or at least last year, when his teams had the rest advantage, 3-0 against the spread, Grace.
Yeah, we know Andy Reid is one of the best coming off rest. But, Michael, for people who don't know, what does a game week kind of look like day by day? How key are those extra 3 days of rest there?
Well, I think what happened is, and all you have to do is follow Travis Kelce's adventure with Taylor Swift to know when they're off and when they're not. So after a Thursday night win like they had, you get Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The players get 3 days off out of the building. The only players that have to come in the building are those who are on the need treatment for injuries. So then Monday, you come back and start your regular week for preparation. Monday, the team comes in, they practice. You go over the Cincinnati game plan. It's all been installed. The coaches have worked. They were off Friday and Saturday. They come in on Sunday and start preparing. And then you have a normal week. You basically have what we call 2 Wednesdays. Wednesday is a full practice day. Most of the time it's a padded practice, but it's really intensive, going over 1st and 10, going over 2nd down, installing some of the red zone stuff that you want to put in. So you have 2 Wednesday practices, and then you get to Thursday. So they probably practice Monday with a Wednesday practice, day off on Tuesday again, come back on Wednesday with Wednesday practice and start their regular routine. And Andy Reid is really good at this, not because he gets the players rest. Everybody gets the players rest. It just gives him more time to game plan. It gives him more time to attack the opponent and understand the opponent. And that's why he's so good in opening games. That's why he's so good when he has more rest.
Yeah, it is about game planning. So let's get into that. But also first, you're right. Travis Kelce had an awesome looking weekend with Taylor Swift going on nice dates in New York, the U.S. Open. I'm assuming you guys don't watch High School Musical, considering you love Quentin Tarantino movies, but I saw a meme saying that saying that Travis Kelce and Pat Mahomes at the U.S. Open look like Troy Bolton and Chad all grown up. And so that kind of warmed my little Disney heart. But
how do people find time to watch all of these things when sports is happening? I'm always like the pop, any musical, any big show. I can't, unless it's the summer. Summer's when I catch up on all the good stuff, because during football, especially when basketball season starts, college football, NHL, NBA, I don't get how people keep up and still call their parents and tell them that they love them, still go to the gym, still keep relationships. People have elite time management skills, which I do not have. I can't keep up with all this stuff outside of sports.
Well, for me, the Swifties do all the creeping on Twitter, so that's how I keep up with the Tavis relationship. Yeah, no extra work required there. But yeah, looking ahead to this Bengals Chiefs game, Xavier Worthy had just about as great as a debut as you can have for the rookie wide receiver. 2 touchdowns, over 40 receiving yards, and it's the speed that was really shown off there. We all knew it was there. He broke that combine record in the 40-yard dash. The thing that I think, Michael, people aren't getting is there's more to just the speed, right? You saw last week, he's so fast that he'll pull 3 defenders with him, and it opens up the middle of the field. Justin Watson was able to have a 20-yard completion that way. There is one member of the Bengals defense who doesn't think Xavier Worthy offers anything but speed. So let's take a listen. Then, Michael, I'd like to hear your take.
Run jet sweeps and just run straight. We can't do too much else, so that's about it. Feel like you put your hands on him. He's only 100-something pounds. So if you put hands on him, you'll stop the speed. So basically, get hands on him.
I think Cam Taylor-Britt probably should just worry about getting his run defense fit and fixing the Bengals problem after you lose to the New England Patriots in a game you should have won. But that being said, he makes some great points. One thing about vertical outside receivers, that's what Worthy is you want to reroute them. You don't want them to have free access like my man Gus Bradley gives most of the receivers whenever they play the Indianapolis Colts. And so when you give free access, what's that mean? That means the receiver can come off the ball without any interruption, without any physicality, without any deterrent to get into the route. And then he can build the speed as he goes. But what Taylor-Britt's saying is true. Because if all you are is a vertical outside guy and you can only catch a 9 route, your route tree isn't very extensive. Now, Reed does a good job, and he clears out the side. That's the thing. Kelsey, it's hard to double Kelsey the way they motion him around. It's hard to handle him inside. So if you have to double somebody on the outside, then all of a sudden it opens the inside lanes for Rice. It opens the inside part of the field for Kelsey, and it allows Patrick Mahomes to throw the ball there. One thing about quarterbacking in the National Football League, if you're trying to make a living throwing the ball outside the numbers down the field, you're not going to have a great success ratio. But when you can throw it inside, that's why whenever you look at tight ends' target percentage of catches, they're always in the high 70s, low 80s. When you look at outside receivers, they're around 50%. So you want to throw the ball in the middle field, why San Francisco is so successful. And when you have somebody who you have to defend outside, it becomes easier to attack the middle of the field with your inside, with your tight ends, and with your inside receivers.
Yeah, so the Bengals have to keep an eye out on Worthy and all those weapons. Not only that, but they got to fix the run defense, too, considering what Ramondre Stevenson did to them in the season opener, averaging 4.8 yards a pop. Michael, what do you think is the Bengals' biggest challenge in this game?
Well, it's a couple. It's going to be the offensive line. They've got to play much better. I don't know if Mims is going to be healthy at right tackle, but Trent Brown, who's never in shape, he's got incredible talent. I mean, Trent Brown could be the best offensive lineman in football. He could be like Trent Williams if he wanted to, except he's lazy and doesn't want to. That's the biggest issue. That's why he's on his third team in his career. Most people don't get rid of left tackles that have this kind of foot speed and this kind of run blocking skill set. But unfortunately, he just doesn't want to play football all the time. And the Bengals found that out when Keon White destroyed them last week in the New England game. So they've got to fix their offensive line. They've got to be able to protect protect Joe Burrow better. And then let's be clear here. Joe Burrow's got to play better. We saw Joe Mixon run really well down for Houston. They exchanged Joe Mixon for Zach Moss. Moss has got to be able to run the ball. It's hard to do against a very good Cincinnati front. And then defensively, the problems really stem from, can they hold up against Pacheco running the football? Can they get Mahomes off the field on third down? And do they have enough opportunity to get the ball back to Burrow? This is a tough challenge, especially for a Zach Taylor team, Grace, that's 0-5 now in the first 2 weeks, the last 2 seasons. They don't play well early in the year. And this will be a really hard game for them. Although I will say, as you know, a lot of professional money has been coming in on Cincinnati, driving this number down. I think that's more about people like to bet against Mahomes when he's a favorite by more than 4 than it is anything else.
Okay, yeah, I was going to ask you what you thought about the line movement. I figured people just saw it as a buy low spot for the Bengals. But either way, it doesn't look like they're going to start the season off well, 0-2. And we know historically only 11% of teams that start 0-2 make the playoffs. So we are a far cry from preseason expectations with this Bengals team. They're going to have to play like a top 5 team the rest of the way. And Michael, do you think they can?
No, they got to shore up some things. I mean, the concerns we had about them going into the season was where were they going to be without DJ Reader inside? Could they play enough run defense? Because Reader was hurt. They let him go. They brought Sheldon Rankins in from the Houston Texans. They need to shore up the inside of their defense. They didn't do that in the first week. They let Stevenson run the ball up and down the field on him and never played comfortably. The second area we were concerned about this offseason was, could their offensive line get better? They lose Jonah Williams to the Arizona Cardinals. He was not a great player, but they brought in Trent Brown to replace him, and then they drafted Mims in the first round, who wasn't able to stay healthy in preseason. So the questions, and then running back, and then what are they going to do at wide receiver? I think they would move Chase inside to try to get him the ball more. And then, but with T. Higgins not outside, again, they're not worried about the outside number threat. So that puts a lot more pressure on the inside passing game. So Burrow's got to play to the level that we all think he could play. That hasn't been the case so far.
Yeah, it looks like there's a little bit of a mental game going on there with him, too. In his Wednesday press conference, he said he felt sped up. There was no pressure happening, though. So we'll see what happens with that. We're going to take a break now. Coming up on the other side, some college football best bets for you. You're watching the VSiN Morning Line.
VSiN's got you covered for the start of the season with our football special. For $175, you'll get access to everything VSiN has to offer. With VSiN Pro, you'll receive daily picks straight to your inbox, detailed analysis on every game, and exclusive data like our betting splits to help you become a sharper bettor. Get all of this for just $175 through the Super Bowl. Or try a monthly subscription and get your first 30 days for only $9.99. Don't miss out on this offer. Sign up now at VSiN.com/subscribe.
Don't wait until fall to start betting the NFL. Get a jump start now with the VSiN NFL betting guide and get prepared for this NFL season like never before. The guide has in-depth breakdowns for all 32 teams, best bets from our VSiN experts, playoff predictions, award market previews, and more. The guide is out now, and the only way to get it is to be a VSiN Pro subscriber. Head to VSiN.com/pro to sign up and join the sports betting network.
You're watching the VSiN Morning Line right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back to the VSiN Morning Line. Harrison Sanford, Grace Remington, and Michael Lombardi joining you on this Friday. And we'll get back to the NFL in a moment, but Grace has her best bets in college football. But there is a player participating in a game tonight in college football that very well could be in the NFL by next season. Teteroa McMillan for the Arizona Wildcats is in action as they take on K-State. Michael, what are the professionals saying about Teteroa, a.k.a. T-Mac, going into this season with the Arizona Wildcats?
Well, you know, T-Mac was on a high school team, Servite, out in California, along with Noah Fajita. They all played together, and they were dynamic in high school. So I watched them play in high school, and then when they both came, T-Mac committed to Oregon originally, and then changed his mind and flipped and went to Arizona to be with Noah. And these two guys have a great, great partnership. And T-Mac, when you look at him, you initially think, well, maybe he doesn't have elite speed, but he's got great body control. He builds speed. He has unbelievable eye-hand coordination. He's very similar to Larry Fitzgerald, and that's a huge compliment considering Larry Fitzgerald's going into the Hall of Fame and had a wonderful career. So this kid is really special. He's an incredibly hard worker. He's tough as nails. He'll go inside. He can run every single route on the route tree. I think he's going to be a high pick, Harrison. He's going to really show people if he runs a 40 in a good time, he'll be a top 10 pick. If he runs it not as good as that, he'll be a top 20 pick. But he's going to have a hell of an NFL career because he has everything you want in a receiver. Great hands, great body control, great eye-hand coordination, and then he's good with the football after. To me, Noah is a little undersized. He's got really good instincts. He was born to play quarterback. And I think ultimately size will be a deterrent. But, you know, he is just, to me, so instinctive with the football. And he's so accurate that they're fun to watch. I'm looking forward to this game tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching T-Mac in action as well. Little Friday night football doesn't hurt anybody. And a lot of the bettors out there, Grace, are favoring T-Mac in one way or another. They are 7-point underdogs taking on K-State, but we're seeing 70% of the handle on the money line for Arizona to have an upset here. Only 35% of the bets, but 75% of the handle. What is your outlook on this game going down tonight?
Yeah, I think Arizona is a popular underdog pick here. It's going to be awesome. I mean, people are complaining against this college football slate this weekend. This is going to be the biggest game of the weekend, could decide playoff seeding here. But for people tailing me on my K-State futures picks, this is a non-conference conference game, remember, because they scheduled this home and home series before conference realignment. So if K-State loses, we're still in good shape. I think the biggest key to the game here is this K-State secondary and how do they hold up against Noah Fajita and T-Mac. You look at the Kansas State defense, which is historically just part of the bones of the program. They have great metrics. The defense has a 24% havoc rate, a 37% success rate on standard downs, 24% success rate on passing downs. And when they allow opponents inside the 40-yard line, they're giving up just 2.4 points per opportunity. The problem is they're giving up explosives. We saw that against Tulane. So can they keep T-Mac in check here? That's the big question. And then on the offensive side of the ball, I don't think they've truly unleashed Avery Johnson yet. We haven't seen him rolling out. He's been throwing to the sidelines. So I think there's a lot more of the playbook they need to let him unleash here. It is a resume game too. So why wouldn't you unleash all the bullets, which are Avery Johnson's legs? So I'm not taking K-State to cover on the full game total or the full game spread. It's a very high total, which with that variance, you just don't know what could happen there. So I'm going to take K-State to cover on the first quarter. It's a Friday night game, so the crowd's going to be crazy. The students are going to be drinking all day. Manhattan does have a really great home advantage. So let's just take K-State to cover in the first quarter, -1.5.
Friday night on a campus with a football game in town. An unbeatable thing for many people out there, what it is to be young. You mentioned the total, and I actually want to go to another game where the total has actually moved. The total was 52. It's all the way down to 49 between Alabama and Wisconsin. Alabama laying 16 points on the road here. How do you think this one pans out?
Yeah, I'm actually making a play on the total here too. I'm going to take the first half under 26.5. I played this one last night. You look at the Wisconsin offense under Phil Longo, it is not what we expected. He traditionally runs tempo, but they're running at a league average pace of just 27 seconds per play. And he's also running a lot of heavier sets, a lot of 2 tight end sets instead of 5 wide. Yet, and they've also failed to create explosive plays with Tyler Van Dyke. At some point, maybe we just have to admit TVD is not a good quarterback, and that breakout year he had at Miami is just that. It was a breakout year. They're up against the Alabama defense, which still ranks top 20 in nearly every defensive category. No drop off on that side of the ball. The most impressive part is finishing drives. That's a stat I often look at when capping college football. It's basically how many points scored or allowed inside the 40-yard line. They are allowing just 1.6 points per trip inside the 40. And that's on 10 drives. So that's a pretty decent sample drive there. And it came against decent group of 5 teams too. Western Kentucky and USF is not bad. Last week, though, against USF, Alabama's offense really struggled. They've been dealing with offensive line issues. They've already allowed 15 pressures on the season. And last week, they were so in danger of losing that game, they actually had to put an injured kid back in the game on the offensive line. So don't believe in either offense here. I think the Alabama defense is still elite. So let's take the first half under 26.5.
Yeah, I could definitely see that one coming to fruition on Saturday. Let's move on to another game. And this one coming out of the American Conference, or at least the American Conference in the ACC. Memphis is a lot of people a surprise pick to potentially make the college football playoff. As it currently stands, they're plus 470 to make the college football playoff. But one of their marquee games or marquee win opportunities isn't there as much anymore. They're taking on Florida State, who is laying 7. But Florida State is not that ranked team that many thought they would be going into the season. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so it looked like people were buying low on Florida State to start the week when they opened at 5.5 point favorites. Then once it got to the key number of 7, that's where you started seeing buyback on Memphis. And that's where I played them. I'm taking Memphis plus the points. DJU was good in the Oregon State offense, but that was run heavy. And FSU is now struggling to run the ball, averaging 2.5 rush yards per attempt. DJU under pressure on 41% of his dropbacks so far. So the O-line not helping him out there either. On the other side of the ball, Seth Hennigan is back for his 4th year as a starter. So I like seeing the continuity there. Opposing defenses have blitzed him 32% of the time last season. And he actually has some of the best numbers when he's being blitzed, 9.6 yards per attempt with a 74% adjusted completion rate. So he does well under pressure. Memphis has played higher competition like Mizzou really close in recent years. And then taking a look at the power ratings for this game as well, they only have these teams separated by 2 points, which would make this a coin flip on a neutral site. So Memphis plus the points feels like a good value play here.
I would not want to be Mike Norvell walking out of Doak Campbell Stadium on Saturday if they do not get a W. They got to get the job done. And for the bettors out there, at least if you're taking FSU laying the points, he better cover as well. We'll stick in Florida as well, where there's another total that shifted. It was gone from 42.5 to 45. FIU at Florida Atlantic. What you got?
Yep, so I'm going to take another dog here. FIU plus 5.5. Power ratings make this game a coin flip on a neutral site, although these schools are just 1 hour apart, so I'm not sure FAU has any home field advantage here, especially given that only boosters attend their games. The FAU defense was just atrocious against Army in that upset. Army ran for over 400 yards and scored a touchdown on every red zone trip they had. The FAU offense also terrible. 3.8 yards per play, which ranks 131st in the country. They've lost all their good players to the transfer portal, and the ones that didn't leave through the transfer portal, they are now competing on the Bachelor. FIU coming off a 52 blowout win of Central Michigan, christening the new Pit Bull Stadium with a big win there. And you look at the power ratings, Central Michigan kind of rates closely to FAU. So given that this should be a coin flip game, I'm going to say Dale FIU, and let's take them with the points.
All right, we got one more before we get out of here in this segment. 66% of the handle is actually on Boston College covering the 16-point spread at Missouri. What you got for that one?
Yep, so I'll lean toward Missouri minus 16. I don't think the Tigers have been playing at full speed this season. You look at the snap counts. Luther Burden has played just 32% of snaps, and Theo Weiss has played just 44% of snaps. So I think they're kind of resting these players in the early season, getting them ready because the playoff is the goal. Boston College, all their metrics are great, but who have they played? They played Duquesne, and then a win over FSU isn't impressive anymore. So this is going to be the first real test for the new Bill O'Brien-led Eagles. They're running plays at 33 seconds per play, slowest rate in the country. So I think Mizzou, kind of looking at the size here as well, they're going to own them in the trenches.
Yeah, I wonder if Boston College is going to be able to have time of possession like they did against Florida State earlier this year, which is doubtful considering how Missouri can put up the points. All right, when we return on the VSiN Morning Line, Thomas Gable is going to join us to break down everything he's seeing in the NFL and college football.
In the heart of downtown Las Vegas, a sports oasis awaits. Stadium Swim, the ultimate outdoor amphitheater, built for the ultimate sports fan, with a colossal screen that brings the game closer than ever. Reserve a daybed, private cabana, or lounge in the center of it all. 6 pools to dive into as the game heats up. And the best part, there's never an off-season. Open 365 days a year. Stadium Swim, it's always spectator season.
A new football season means a new lineup on VSiN. Start your day with sharp betting analysis on the VSiN Morning Line at 7 a.m. Eastern. Follow it up with a numbers game at 10, money moves at noon, and prop points from 2 to 3 p.m. Get pregame strategies with Make It Rain at 3 p.m. Follow the money at 4 and at 8. Join us for the day's biggest games on VSiN Primetime. Wrap up your night with cashing out at 11. Check out the full lineup on VSiN.com and join us on the Sports Betting Network.
You're watching the VSiN Morning Line right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Welcome back into the VSiN Morning Line as we continue to get you ready for week 2 of the NFL season. Grace Remington here with Michael Lombardi and Harrison Sanford. So the Bills crushed the Dolphins last night, and that loss by Miami reflected now in the odds to win the AFC East. Miami entered the game as the plus 165 favorite to win the division. They have now dropped to third at plus 350 behind the Bills, who are now the favorite at plus 125, and the Jets, who are second at plus 170. Let's get into this game a little bit more and check out the rest of the slate. We have a guest joining us on the Progressive Guest line. It is Thomas Gable, the Borgata Sports Book Director. Thomas, thank you for joining us. Depending on how you look at it last night on this total, it was either a bad beat for people who were holding the over ticket or maybe a little bit lucky for those who took the under. How did the book make out last night?
Yeah, I guess, Grace, if at halftime, if you were sitting with an over ticket, you were probably feeling pretty good about your chances. And then by the end of the night, not so good. So, overall, this was a game that was pretty evenly bet at 2.5. We closed 2.5. We opened the Dolphins laying 1.5. They laid the 1.5. They laid the 2, went to 2.5, and that's really when we started to see Buffalo money come in. And we were writing good two-way business then at 2.5, and that was the number. There was no point in ever going to 3 because it would just be an avalanche of Buffalo money. So 2.5, it was fine, and that's where we ended up closing it. And as you said, we closed the total 48.5. But again, after watching that first half, you were thinking, all right, if you bet the over, you were feeling pretty good about that. And unfortunately, didn't get home for you, but overall, we made out pretty well in the game last night. Now, obviously, the question here moving forward is going to be, what do you do really with Miami and Tua's status? You feel really bad for Tua and his history of concussions, and you hope for the best for him. But the bottom line is the NFL marches on, Miami Dolphins march on, and they have a game next week against Seattle, and there's no Tua. There's going to be an adjustment to that number, and you're going to have to adjust their power rating down. But they have not looked good. 2 games now, 2 weeks in a row, and even Josh Allen last night not doing much at all, and Buffalo coming away with an easy win. It just really seemed obviously the injury kind of compounded the way Miami has to be feeling at this point, because it's been 2 weeks now that they are 1-1, but 2 weeks where they have not looked strong and certainly have not looked like the team that you would think would be challenging Buffalo and the Jets here to really keep pace in that division. And as you mentioned already, their division odds have shifted plus 180 down to about plus 350. Right now, and Buffalo goes to about plus 165 as the favorite now for that division.
Yeah, TJ, I think Buffalo, I'm not sure what Buffalo is as a team, because they played Arizona, then they lose a bunch of guys, they lose their best corner, and then they go into Miami and they play well. Let's talk about a game that I'm sure is near. There's 2 games that probably are getting a lot of action at the Borgata. Both of them feature the New York Giants and the New York Jets, the New York teams. So It looks to me like there is a lot of public money coming in on the Giants. And it seems to be that Washington seems to be the pro pick here. And then you look at the Jets game at 4, and I'd love to know where you are on both games in terms of number. The Jet games, they should win this. It seems like a trap, but this is one of those games that always looks like the book needs the other team with the Jets, and they'll probably get it. So can you help us on both games here?
Sure. Well, let's look at the Jets and Titans first. And, the main question mark I think that everybody had on the Jets this year was how was Aaron Rodgers going to look coming off of his injury. And, I guess you had two aging quarterbacks, right, coming into this season, both Aaron Rodgers and Kirk Cousins. Now, Rodgers looked more mobile than Cousins did in week 1. the Jets certainly have pretty high expectations here this year. And while they certainly weren't able to stop the run at all against the Niners on Monday night, people are backing them here against the Titans. And even though they're on the road, they are 4-point favorites. I think as far as the Titans go, jury is still out on Will Levis. I think for the most part, my mind's kind of made up on Will Levis. I'm not too high on the guy, but I think we're going to end up needing Tennessee in this one as the home dog, believe it or not. Again, as you mentioned, Michael, we're certainly skewed in terms of the action we take at Borgata. It's a lot of New York money comes in, just geographically from where we sit. Now, the Giants and Commanders, a little bit different story here. So, again, we opened the Commanders 3-point favorites, quickly went down to 2.5. Now they're down to only 1.5-point favorites. And now down to 1.5. Now you're starting to see some Commanders money, but it was all Giants money early when you could get the 3 and even taking the 2.5 there. I'm going to be interested to see how the public bets this one come Sunday with the Giants. Last Sunday, it was all Giants money here against the Vikings. Vikings were one of our biggest needs last Sunday, and obviously they got there. I think it's going to be very interesting here with how this game is bet because, again, the Commanders, they're a team that I think a lot of people are interested to see how Jaden Daniels is going to do. They think that offense could potentially do some big things, certainly with Cliff Kingsbury there and calling the plays. But and the Giants just look so poor in week one, especially with Daniel Jones' performance. But again, Commanders defense, you know, it's you hate to say that it's a sieve, but if Daniel Jones can't do anything this week against Washington, I don't really know how you even rate the Giants moving forward because I'm not quite sure who they're going to score on if they can't score on the Commanders this week.
Thomas, we've seen some movement here in terms of the totals in some games, as much as 7 points, and I think that's due to the quarterback concerns. Colts versus Packers, Browns, Jaguars, Pittsburgh Steelers, and Denver Broncos. Significant movement with the number going down. Can you talk about that and some of the action that maybe you're seeing in terms of totals this weekend?
Yeah, so the Colts Packers, obviously that game down to 40.5. Now, that's actually moved 3 points from where we opened at 43.5. And we know, obviously, the Packers have certainly been affected there by the Jordan Love injury. Going from Love to Malik Willis, big drop off there, not only in terms of the point spread, but also that is going to affect the total as well. So you mentioned that one. The Browns game, again, Deshaun Watson. At what point do we say, hey, we've seen enough of Deshaun Watson at this point? Do they have to go to Winston? I don't know. I mean, the guy really has not played one good full football game in years. And you're starting to see that. You know, we kind of knew that going in this year, where it was like, are we ever going to get to Deshaun Watson of old? Probably not. Certainly week one, not even close. So we opened that game Jags laying 3 with a total of 43.5. Again, that's dropped now down to 41.5. The point spread's still sitting at 3. Jags a 3-point home favorite there. But again, I think we're probably going to end up needing Cleveland in this one. We've seen money come in on the under early on in that game, much like we did in the Packers game. Early money on the under. So we'll see how far these totals fall. I don't think they're going to fall much lower than what they are, maybe a half a point. But that was certainly where the early money was coming in on the under in those games.
Thomas, we have less than a minute left here, but I wanted to get your thoughts on tonight's Friday night game in football, Arizona K-State. What's your biggest liability in that game?
Well, right now, Kansas State is laying 7 at home, and they are the ones that are getting bet here. So it looks like we're going to need Arizona at the moment. Have a small decision on the total in this. It's sitting at 60.5. Is getting bet to the over. Could end up going as high as 61. So that's really where the decision lays right now.
All right. Great to know. Thomas Gable, Sportsbook Director of the Borgata. Thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy your weekend. We will see you next week.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Coming up on the other side of this break, we will reset at the top of this hour and get more into Bills-Dolphins breakdown. You're watching the VSiN Morning Line.
The only thing better than football is the excitement of all the contests.